Hey Galactic Geeks, welcome to the Suicide Squad review. Alright, let's get right into this. Pretty good, I would say. Overall, it's better than Batman v Superman. It does have some problems, and I'll get into that in a minute. Spoilers, obviously. So, here we go. Overall, it's a good movie, guys. It's a good action movie. The people playing the roles are great. There are some plot things that aren't explained or could have been explained better. And it's obvious that there's a better version of this movie out there somewhere. Before reshoots, like a year ago when they released this, everyone's like, oh my god, this movie's great, it's great. And then all these negative reviews right before the release kind of soured everyone, I think. I went in with an open mind. I was hoping I'd like it, but I was willing to accept that it was possibly bad, and I liked it. It's not the best movie that I've ever seen, but it was pretty solid. The action was good. Like I said, the people playing the characters were great. They all embodied the roles pretty well. The only thing, there were some plot things, and I'll start with those. So, there was some plot issues, kind of in the sense that some of these characters were way more delved into than others. For example, Harley Quinn and Deadshot, they get opening sequences to themselves, and that's fine, they're two of the main characters and draws for the movie. But then there's other characters like El Diablo who you don't really get that much information on until probably a good 2/3 into the movie, 3/4 even, and it's kind of at that point, it's like, okay, you don't really need to give us background. If you're going to wait till this far into the movie to give us motivations and stuff, maybe we could have done it earlier, or maybe we don't need those motivations, kind of thing. And then there's other characters like Katana gets like 3 words of, backstory, and that's about it. And then Killer Croc, everyone gets their file explained, but like Killer Croc, we don't ever see any background into him. Captain Boomerang, we don't really see any background into him. They kind of just play him as like just a basic criminal, he's a criminal, he steals things, and so you don't need to like go into his backstory kind of thing. And it's like, yeah, but you still could. Soundtrack was amazing for this movie. That's a plus. But other plot things that were wrong were there was just missing gaps of information sometimes. Sometimes it would seem like someone was kind of important, but then they weren't. Or someone was someone else, and then you're like, oh no, that's that guy, kind of. A good example would be Enchantress is the villain. We all kind of knew that already. But Enchantress is the villain, and she brings her brother back, and her brother's also like a weird spirit ghost thing, and it takes over a body and then it turns into a giant monster, and then the Suicide Squad deals with it and kind of that kind of stuff. But it's like they never really mention what his name is. They just say, oh, this is the Enchantress's brother, and it's like, for the life of me, I don't remember any of that, but I mean, that's okay. Do what you want, do what you need. The main villain was Enchantress, and that's probably the way it should have been. Felt like Scott Eastwood's character should have been a little more important than he was. Way back when there was that whole theory that he was Dick Grayson, and I liked that theory. I was willing to buy that theory, but he seemed to just be another soldier in Rick Flag's unit, and it's like, okay, cool, but it's Scott Eastwood, it's Clint Eastwood's son. He's a good actor, he's a handsome guy. Why are you just using him as like background military character? Give him a role in the universe and carry him into other movies. He didn't even have to be Dick Grayson. He could have just been some high-ranking officer who's pals with Rick Flag. You didn't have to connect Batman or Robin into it or anything. Just let him be someone more important. It's Scott Eastwood. Why get him if you're just going to make him a side character, kind of? And that kind of goes into the whole reshoots thing. It's kind of like, okay, there probably is a better version of this movie sitting out there somewhere. and maybe we'll get that on the DVD Blu-ray release, kind of like we did with Batman v Superman. You know, who knows? It's possible, but I'm not denying that this is a good movie in my opinion. I'm just saying it could have been better. Also, the Joker, it's a really weird take on the Joker, and you don't really get enough time in the movie to make up your mind as to whether it's a good interpretation or not. He's very gangstery, he's very, I don't even know how to describe him really. He gets like 5-7 minutes max screen time in this kind of thing, you know. I can think of off the top of my head like 3 scenes with him, and they all last like between a minute and a half and like 2 minutes. So, you know, he gets upwards of like 10 minutes of screen time maybe, but that's not really enough in a movie like this to establish whether or not he's a good Joker. And he did some Joker-esque things, like no one's denying that, but there's also kind of the... You didn't get to see him do enough, I don't feel, to make a judgment call. We'll have to see him again in something else before we can decide if he's the new Joker we like or not. But it feels like he had more of a role to play in this movie before the reshoots, or, you know, maybe I'm just crazy and this is how it's supposed to be, but I think he had a bigger part, and I think, like I said, I think there's a better version of this film out there, and not that this is a bad version of the film. I enjoyed it, but maybe, you know, there's a better version somewhere, and hopefully we'll get to see it. I like David Ayer. I liked Fury. He wrote and directed this movie. I know he directed Fury. I think he wrote Fury as well, but I don't think that this was entirely all his doing. It's kind of like the Fantastic Four thing. That movie wasn't good, but was it really, you know, I'm sorry, I'm blanking on his name, Josh Trank's fault that it wasn't that good? I don't think so. I think a lot of it happened from the studio, and I feel like this is that. I feel like the same thing that happened to Batman vs Superman a little bit kind of happened to this movie, where the board was kind of like, hey guys, no, we're gonna change this movie up a little bit. But hopefully that's done now. Jeff Jones is president of DC, so hopefully he has a little more say now than he might have had before, and hopefully that deems well for the rest of the cinematic universe, starting with Wonder Woman next, actually. And with that, I'm going to end this review. Went on a little longer than I wanted to, but that's okay. And I'll see you guys in the next video.